Get your chocolate frogs and butterbeers ready as we spend 2 glorious hours going over the first 4 Harry Potter books. Harry, Hermione, Sirius, Dumbledore, Snape and Fleur are all pointing at one thing: the subscribe button. Even Voldemort's watching. And trust me, you don't want to disappoint him. Hermione says it's the smartest choice, Sirius says it's the rebellious thing to do, and Dumbledore, well, he knows best. So go on, subscribe now and keep the magic alive.
Part 1. First year at Hogwarts 1991. Aboard the Hogwarts Express. On September 1, 1991, Harry's journey toward his destiny continued as the Dursleys dropped him off at King's Cross Station. Vernon assisted Harry with his belongings, chuckling about the non-existent platform 9 3/4. The Dursley family departed, leaving Harry alone in the bustling station. With only 10 minutes until the train's departure at 11 a.m., Harry, anxious, overheard a red-headed family complaining about Muggle congestion and observed their owl. Witnessing the older boys magically passing through the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, Harry nervously approached them and met Ron, the youngest son. Molly, Ron's mother, kindly provided instructions on accessing the platform. Harry, followed by Ron, rushed through the barrier, arriving on the platform, where the Hogwarts Express awaited. Most compartments were occupied, so Harry, with help from the red-headed twins, secured a spot near the end of the train. While assisting, the twins noticed Harry's distinctive scar, recognizing him as Harry Potter. Seated near the window in his compartment, Harry observed the family. The twins, Fred and George Weasley, shared this revelation with their siblings, Ginny and Percy. Once on board, the train departed, and Ron asked to join Harry in his compartment. Ron inquired about Harry's scar, and Harry learned that Ron's entire family were wizards, except for a second cousin who was an accountant. At the trolley's arrival around 12:30, Harry purchased a variety of treats and shared them with Ron. Neville Longbottom, searching for his lost toad Trevor, soon appeared. While Ron attempted a spell on his rat Scabbers, Hermione Granger intervened to help find Trevor. After Ron's spell failed, Hermione introduced herself and informed Harry that he featured in several magical history books. As they speculated about their potential Hogwarts houses, Draco Malfoy, Vincent Crabbe, and Gregory Goyle approached. Despite Draco's attempts to befriend him, Harry refused to shake hands after Draco insulted Ron and his family. Scabbers bit Goyle's finger when he tried to take their chocolate frog cards, driving them off. Ron explained that the Malfoy family was associated with Voldemort, but they later claimed to have been bewitched, a statement Ron's father doubted. Upon arrival, Hagrid gathered the first years, leading them down a path to the Great Lake's edge. In groups of no more than 4, they boarded small boats, sailing across the lake to an underground harbor. Reminding Neville to bring his toad, Hagrid guided them through a passageway to the castle gates. Part 2. The Sorting Ceremony. Upon reaching the castle door, Professor Minerva McGonagall warmly greeted the new students and provided an explanation of Hogwarts' 4 houses: Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin, along with the House Cup rules. She then guided the first years into a small room adjacent to the entrance hall, instructing them to wait until her return. Upon her reappearance, they were led into the Great Hall, where they received greetings from fellow students and, notably, encountered a worn wizard's hat resting on a small stool. As the Sorting Hat song described the attributes of each house, Harry felt a growing concern about where he would be placed. Remembering Hagrid and Ron's warnings about Slytherin's association with dark wizards and Voldemort's history in the house, Harry hesitated. When he wore the hat, it slipped past his eyes, suggesting Slytherin. Fearful and thinking of Voldemort, Harry urgently repeated "not Slytherin." Responding to Harry's plea, the hat placed him in Gryffindor alongside Ron and Hermione Granger. In his second year, during a visit to Dumbledore's office, the Sorting Hat reiterated the notion that Harry would do well in Slytherin. The sorting ceremony concluded with the start of term feast. Unaccustomed to such abundance, Harry was overwhelmed by the variety of foods before him. Dessert arrived, and conversation shifted to the first year's families. Neville Longbottom shared an amusing anecdote about how his family initially believed he was a squib until a fortunate fall from a window proved otherwise. During the feast, Harry experienced the first pain in his scar. Looking at Professor Quirrell, who had Lord Voldemort inhabiting his body, Harry felt a sharp pain when Quirrell looked in his direction. Anytime Voldemort was near, Harry's scar would ache. After the golden plates and goblets were cleared, Dumbledore delivered a welcoming speech, issuing warnings about the Forbidden Forest and the third-floor corridor. The school then sang the school song before heading off to their respective dormitories. Part 3. First Year's Classes. In his inaugural potions class, Harry discovered the disdain Professor Snape held for him, ridiculing him as the school's new celebrity before instructing the class on brewing a boil cure potion. After class, Harry and Ron visited Hagrid's hut for tea, encountering Hagrid's massive and intimidating dog, Fang. Hagrid reassured Harry that Snape's behavior was unwarranted and began discussing Ron's older brother, Charlie Weasley. During their conversation, Harry came across a Daily Prophet article detailing a break-in at Gringotts on his birthday, specifically Vault 713, the same vault he and Hagrid had visited on their Diagon Alley trip. Harry's enthusiasm for learning to fly was dampened upon discovering that Gryffindors and Slytherins would share flying lessons. Malfoy, boasting about his skills, fueled the anticipation. Madame Rolanda Hooch initiated the class, teaching basic broom control before instructing students to hover. Neville, fearing being left behind, panicked, rose too quickly, and broke his wrist. Madame Hooch escorted Neville to the hospital wing, cautioning the rest to remain grounded. Seizing the opportunity, Draco snatched Neville's Remembrall and challenged Harry to retrieve it, threatening to leave it up a tree. Harry, surprisingly adept at flying, pursued Draco. In a thrilling dive, he caught the Remembrall just above the ground, earning cheers from the Gryffindors. Harry's elation was short-lived as Professor McGonagall intervened. Rather than punishment, she introduced him to Oliver Wood, Gryffindor Quidditch team captain, pulled from a charms class. Intrigued by Harry's dive, Wood envisioned him as an excellent seeker and discussed the need for a quality broom to compete. This unexpected encounter marked the beginning of Harry's Quidditch journey. Part 4. The Midnight Duel. Over dinner that night, Harry recounted the events following his departure with McGonagall to Ron, emphasizing Wood's desire for secrecy. Draco, joined by his cohorts Crabbe and Goyle, approached Harry to taunt him about the earlier incident. Infuriated that Harry not only evaded trouble, but was also rewarded, Draco challenged him to a wizard's duel. Despite Hermione's attempts to dissuade them from breaking the rules, Harry accepted the challenge. Leaving the tower, the trio encountered Neville, whose wrist had been mended by Madame Pomfrey. Forgotten password in tow, Neville decided to join them. Arriving at the trophy room for the duel, they discovered Draco's absence, speculating that he might have backed out. While deliberating their next move, Filch and Mrs. Norris, the caretaker and his cat, entered the room. Realizing Draco had deceived them and alerted Filch, they attempted a silent exit. However, Peeves, the mischievous poltergeist, barged in, threatening exposure. In a moment of desperation, Ron swiped at Peeves, prompting the poltergeist to loudly reveal their location, attracting Filch. The children sprinted to the end of the corridor, encountering a locked door. Hermione, using Harry's wand, magically unlocked it, and they entered, only to confront a terrifying sight. A colossal three-headed dog. Opting for Filch over potential danger, they fled, miraculously returning to their dormitory without encountering anyone. Despite the unsettling events, Hermione pointed out the dog was standing on a trapdoor, fueling Harry's curiosity about the mysteries that lay ahead. Part 5. The Nimbus 2000. During breakfast the following morning, Harry and Ron speculated about what Fluffy might be guarding. The arrival of mail diverted their attention, and Harry, who had only received Hagrid's letter, was as curious as the others about the peculiarly shaped package that morning. To his surprise, upon opening it, he discovered a Nimbus 2000, accompanied by a note from Professor McGonagall cautioning him not to unveil the broom at the table and instructing him to meet Wood that night for Quidditch practice. Taking the broom to their dormitory, Harry and Ron were confronted by Malfoy, who confiscated the package, asserting that first-year students were prohibited from having their own brooms. When Professor Flitwick approached, Malfoy attempted to report Harry, but Flitwick, aware of Harry's special permission, instead commended Harry's talent. Part 6. Halloween. On Halloween, Professor Flitwick commenced the instruction of the levitation charm to his students. Hermione was the sole success, and Ron, feeling offended by her air of superiority, made a hurtful comment about her lack of friends, inadvertently overheard by Hermione. Distraught, she fled to the girls' bathroom in tears, leaving Ron and Harry with a lingering sense of guilt. Later, as they descended to the Halloween feast, the grandeur of the decorations momentarily overshadowed their remorse. Midway through the feast, Quirrell interrupted to announce the presence of a 12-foot mountain troll in the dungeons before promptly fainting. Prefects guided the students back to their dormitories, but Harry realized Hermione was unaware of the troll's presence. Feeling responsible, he persuaded Ron to assist in her rescue. Sneaking to the girls' bathroom, they inadvertently trapped the troll inside, unbeknownst to them. Their oversight became evident upon hearing Hermione's terrified scream from the bathroom. An alarmed Harry and Ron rushed back to rescue her. Following a brief confrontation, during which Harry stuck his wand up the troll's nose, Ron successfully incapacitated the troll by levitating its own club to strike its head. Drawn by the troll's cries, the professors arrived to discover Harry, Ron, and Hermione covered in dust, and the bathroom in disarray. Professor McGonagall, Gryffindor's head, began reprimanding the boys for not heading straight to their dormitories with the rest of their house, instead putting themselves in serious peril. To the surprise of Harry and Ron, Hermione fabricated a story to McGonagall, claiming that she had ventured out to find the troll, thinking she could handle the situation. She asserted that Harry and Ron were searching for her, which was accurate, and she might have met a tragic fate if the boys hadn't come to her rescue. Also true. This shared ordeal forged a bond among them, and they became friends thereafter. Part 7. Quidditch. As the Quidditch season commenced, Harry's nerves heightened. The first match was against Slytherin, and the pressure on Harry to prove himself beyond his fame was mounting. To ease his anxiety, Harry borrowed Quidditch Through the Ages, a comprehensive history of the sport that Hermione had obtained from the library. On the day before the match, Harry, Ron, and Hermione huddled around a conjured flame jar for warmth during the break. Snape, noticing their guilty expressions, seized the opportunity to punish them and confiscated Harry's book, citing a feeble excuse about library books not being allowed outside. Harry observed Snape's limp, strengthening his suspicion that the potion's master was interested in whatever Fluffy was guarding. Concerned about the match and determined to retrieve the book, Harry decided to confront Snape. Overhearing Snape complaining to Filch about Fluffy's guarding, Harry witnessed Filch assisting Snape in bandaging his injured leg. Returning to the common room, Harry shared everything with his friends. With little time to dwell on Snape's injury, the first Quidditch match loomed the next morning. As the Gryffindor Seeker, Harry's pivotal role was to catch the Golden Snitch, a small, elusive golden ball. In his first attempt, the Slytherin Seeker interfered, blocking Harry's path. Shortly after, Harry's broom began behaving erratically, escalating to violent shaking. The crowd watched in horror as Harry struggled to maintain control. Ron and Hermione speculated on the cause, but Hagrid, joining the audience, remarked that it would take powerful dark magic beyond a second year's capability. Hermione, observing Snape muttering and staring at Harry, seized the moment to run around the stadium and cast a spell that set Snape's robes on fire. The spell on Harry's broom broke, allowing him to regain control. Confused spectators witnessed Harry dive towards the ground, only to clutch his mouth as a fill. In reality, Harry had caught the snitch with his mouth. Gryffindor emerged victorious. After the match, Hagrid took the trio to his hut. Ron and Hermione recounted Snape's actions, but Hagrid doubted Snape's motive for harming Harry. Harry revealed Snape's encounter with the dog on the third-floor corridor. Surprised by their knowledge, Hagrid unintentionally disclosed that the dog belonged to him, and the secret it guarded concerned Albus Dumbledore and a man named Nicholas Flamel. Part 8. Christmas Season. As impressive as it was that Harry had managed to maintain control of a bucking broomstick, Malfoy quickly discovered that the rest of the school no longer found his taunts about Harry's replacement amusing. Instead, Malfoy resorted to teasing Harry about spending the holidays at Hogwarts. Nonetheless, Harry looked forward to Christmas, especially as Ron was also staying, providing an opportunity to research Nicholas Flamel. Although the librarian might have swiftly found a book on Flamel, they opted to search themselves to avoid suspicion. On Christmas morning, Harry and Ron discovered a pile of presents at the foot of their beds. At the bottom was a package containing an invisibility cloak and an anonymous note indicating that it had belonged to Harry's father, and to use it well. Intrigued, Harry decided to test the cloak. Sneaking back to the library, he headed for the restricted section. Opening a hefty book, a blood-curdling scream erupted, prompting Harry to hastily retreat, accidentally knocking over a lantern. Dodging Filch, he ran through dark corridors away from the library. Thinking he had evaded Filch, Harry was alarmed to hear his voice approaching, realizing he was speaking with Snape. As they rounded the corner, Harry, wearing the invisibility cloak, had no chance to sneak past in the narrow corridor. Spotting a door, he slipped inside, finding himself in an abandoned classroom. After Snape and Filch passed, Harry relaxed and took note of the room's details. Examining the room more closely, Harry discovered an old gilded mirror with an inscription. Eri said straw eru oit ub kafru oit on wosi. Stepping in front of the mirror, he was shocked to see a crowd of people who looked just like him, his family. The next night, he brought Ron to the mirror room. Ron saw himself standing alone, holding the house cup, wearing badges as head boy and Quidditch captain. The following evening, eager to see his family again, Harry went to the mirror room. Unbeknownst to him, Professor Dumbledore was waiting. Dumbledore explained that the mirror, known as the Mirror of Eri said, showed the deepest desire of the viewer. Harry, who had never known his family, saw them. Dumbledore warned that the mirror was dangerous and would be moved. When asked what he saw, Dumbledore humorously replied, "Myself with a pair of woolen socks." Despite the warning, Harry found it hard to forget the image until Wood announced Snape as the referee for the next Quidditch match against Hufflepuff. Shortly before the match, Malfoy used the leglocker curse on Neville. Harry, sympathetic, told Neville he was worth 12 of Malfoy and gave him a chocolate frog, finding out it was Dumbledore's card, the first one he ever got. Turning it over, he remembered seeing the name Nicholas Flamel on the train. Tensions rose as Gryffindor aimed to overtake Slytherin in the Quidditch Cup, with Snape as the referee. Ron and Hermione practiced the leglocker curse in case Snape threatened Harry. Wood reminded Harry to catch the snitch quickly, and Harry succeeded within 5 minutes, securing Gryffindor's lead in the Quidditch Cup. Part 9. Detention. After realizing how much Harry, Ron, and Hermione had deduced about the Philosopher's Stone during their encounter in the library, Rubeus Hagrid instructed them to meet him later in his hut. When they arrived, they observed a lit fire despite the daytime heat. Though reluctant, Hagrid was persuaded by Hermione to discuss the protective measures surrounding the stone. Fluffy, the three-headed dog, was Hagrid's contribution, complemented by enchantments from Professors Sprout, Flitwick, McGonagall, Quirrell, and Snape. In the warmth, Harry asked Hagrid to open a window, but Hagrid refused, revealing a dragon egg in the fire. Unfortunately, Draco Malfoy discovered the dragon and sought revenge by reporting them to Professor McGonagall for possessing an illegal dragon. To avert trouble, Harry, Ron, and Hermione convinced Hagrid to send Norbert to Ron's brother Charlie Weasley, who would take the dragon to a Romanian dragon preserve. While assisting Hagrid, the dragon bit Ron's hand, causing swelling and a visit to Madame Pomfrey. On the planned night, Harry and Hermione smuggled Norbert in a crate to the astronomy tower under Harry's invisibility cloak. En route, they witnessed Professor McGonagall catching Malfoy for being out of bed, and he retaliated by accusing Harry of having a dragon. They handed Norbert's crate to Charlie's friends and descended the stairs, accidentally leaving the cloak behind. Filch apprehended them, leading to McGonagall's office, where Neville, who had tried to warn them, also awaited. Disappointed, McGonagall deducted 50 points each from Harry, Hermione, and Neville, assigning them detention with Malfoy. Harry's popularity plummeted, as his Quidditch successes were overshadowed by his role in losing points for Gryffindor. Shortly before exams, Harry's resolution not to meddle was tested when he overheard Quirrell whimpering as if threatened. Suspecting Snape and the stone, Hermione proposed talking to Dumbledore, but Harry dismissed the idea due to lack of proof. The next day, they received detention notes, and Filch escorted them to the Forbidden Forest, where Hagrid awaited. Splitting into pairs, Hagrid took Harry and Hermione while Neville and Malfoy went with Fang. After Malfoy frightened Neville into sending red sparks, Hagrid sent Harry with Malfoy, thinking he'd be less intimidating. As they followed pools of unicorn blood, they reached a clearing where they found a dead unicorn. A hooded figure emerged to drink its blood, prompting Malfoy to flee with Fang. Harry, in pain from his scar, stumbled away and was rescued by Firanz, a Palomino centaur, who carried him out of the forest. Firanz disclosed the properties of unicorn blood, and Harry realized that only someone desperate like Lord Voldemort would kill a unicorn. Part 10. The Philosopher's Stone. In the aftermath of their exams, while conversing with Ron and Hermione, Harry realized the peculiar coincidence surrounding Hagrid's desire for a dragon and a stranger providing one. Eager for more details, they approached Hagrid, only to discover that the stranger never revealed his face, maintaining a hooded appearance in the Hag's head. Hagrid's recollections were blurry due to the drinks bought by the mysterious man, but he mentioned discussions about Hogwarts and the creatures Hagrid tended to. Determined to convey their suspicions to Professor Dumbledore, the trio, en route across the entrance hall, encountered Professor McGonagall. They shared their findings, but she insisted that stealing the stone was impossible and mentioned Dumbledore's absence in London for the day. Setting out that night to thwart Snape, they were halted by Neville, fearing another unjustifiable Gryffindor point loss. Desperate for time, Hermione paralyzed Neville, and upon reaching the third-floor corridor, they encountered Fluffy, the three-headed dog, now awake but appeased by a harp. Recalling Hagrid's advice, Harry played the wooden flute he received for Christmas, lulling Fluffy to sleep. Descending through the trapdoor, they confronted challenges in different professors' rooms. A room filled with Devil's Snare posed a threat, but was navigated successfully. The following room held flying keys and broomsticks. Harry secured the correct key, unlocking the next door. Professor McGonagall's room featured a wizard's chessboard. Ron played to victory, but sacrificed himself. In Professor Quirrell's room, they encountered an unconscious troll. Snape's room held 7 potions with clues for progression. Hermione solved the puzzle, and at Harry's insistence, she drank the potion to return for Ron, while Harry moved forward. In the final room, Harry encountered the mirror of Erised and Quirrell. Quirrell bound Harry, revealing the mirror as the stone's key. In an attempt to distract Quirrell, Harry questioned him, uncovering his allegiance to Voldemort. Quirrell, unable to locate the stone, sought Voldemort's help, leading to the revelation that Harry was key. Gazing into the mirror, Harry saw himself obtaining and then returning the stone. Quirrell, realizing Harry's lie, exposed his connection to Voldemort and commanded Harry to surrender the stone. Refusing, Harry's touch caused pain to Quirrell, leading to a struggle and Harry losing consciousness. Awakening in the hospital wing, Harry learned from Dumbledore that Quirrell failed, and the stone was destroyed. Dumbledore explained Harry's protection, stemming from his mother's sacrifice. At the end of term feast, Dumbledore awarded points, enabling Gryffindor to clinch the House Cup.
Before we move on to Harry's second year, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Or I'll tell Dobby you hate socks. But seriously, your support goes a long way. Hogwarts Year 2, 1992. Part 1. Meeting Dobby. In 1992, Harry's second year began on a sour note that only worsened over time. During the preceding summer, the Dursleys, apprehensive about Harry's newfound magical abilities, went to extreme lengths by locking away all his school supplies upon his return home. They even prohibited him from uttering any words related to magic, leading to Uncle Vernon reprimanding him for mentioning magic at the breakfast table. Despite these restrictions, Harry cleverly exploited their paranoia to carve out moments of solitude. He entertained himself by teasing Dudley with imaginary magical incantations like jiggery-pokery, hocus-pocus, and squiggly-wiggly. Additionally, he experienced isolation from his friends and the wizarding world, with Hedwig making noise out of boredom in her padlocked cage. On his 12th birthday, July 31st, Harry felt a deep sense of loneliness, receiving no letters from friends. Dudley cruelly taunted him, questioning the possibility of anyone wanting to be friends with him. The Dursleys, preoccupied with preparing for a dinner party, seemed to forget his birthday. As Harry observed a hedge that seemed to stare back at him, Dudley interrupted, leading Harry to feign magical incantations to scare him away. Later that evening, while sent to his room for the dinner party, Harry discovered Dobby, a house elf, on his bed. Dobby warned him about the danger of returning to Hogwarts and revealed that he had intercepted mail from Harry's friends. Despite Harry's insistence that Hogwarts was his home, Dobby's attempts to bargain failed. In a dramatic turn of events, Dobby crashed the dinner party and used a hover charm on Petunia's pudding to crash it over the guest's head, resulting in chaos and a Ministry of Magic warning for Harry. The Dursleys, seizing the opportunity to suppress Harry's magical abilities, punished him by locking him in his room with barred windows to prevent him from returning to Hogwarts. Part 2. Escape to the Burrow. 3 nights later, Ron, concerned about not receiving any communication from Harry throughout the summer, orchestrated a daring rescue. Accompanied by his older brothers Fred and George Weasley, they piloted a flying Ford Anglia owned by their father, Arthur Weasley, head of the Ministry's Misuse of Muggle Artifacts Office. The mission: to break the bars on Harry's window and retrieve him and his school belongings. Hedwig's loud screeches tipped off the Dursleys, but their attempts to intervene were futile as the car soared away, carrying Harry to freedom. During the flight to the Weasley family's home, the Burrow, Harry shared with Ron and the twins the details of Dobby's ominous warning. Fred and George dismissed it as a prank orchestrated by Draco Malfoy, whose affluent family they believed was behind such mischief. Upon reaching their destination early the next morning, a concerned Molly Weasley awaited them in the kitchen. In response to their unauthorized use of the flying car, she assigned the task of denoming the garden to her 3 sons and Harry, who volunteered for the job. Mr. Weasley returned home to discuss the outcomes of his proposed Muggle Protection Act with his family. Despite Mrs. Weasley scolding him for bewitching the car, he warmly welcomed Harry into the fold. The Weasleys generously embraced Harry as part of the family for the remainder of the summer. However, Ron's younger sister, Ginny Weasley, spent the entire day hiding in Harry's presence. Part 3. Welcoming at Flourish and Blots. A week after receiving an acceptance letter for Hogwarts, the Weasleys embarked on a trip to Diagon Alley via the Flu network to procure school supplies. Harry found himself mistakenly in Borgin and Burke's in Knockturn Alley instead of the intended destination. While inside, he had to conceal himself in a crushing cabinet as Draco Malfoy and his father, Lucius Malfoy, entered. Draco, displaying his sulkiness, was making snide comments about Harry's Quidditch skills. Mr. Borgin, the shopkeeper, was surprised that Mr. Malfoy was only selling dark and illegally enchanted artifacts rather than buying. Mr. Malfoy explained that he was sealing the items to prevent them from being confiscated in the raids conducted by Mr. Weasley as part of the Muggle Protection Act. In conversation, Borgin expressed pity for the decline of blood purity, while Draco expressed interest in various items for sale, but his father prevented him from approaching Harry's hiding spot. After the Malfoys left, Harry was discovered leaving the shop by Rubeus Hagrid, who guided him from Knockturn into Diagon Alley's Flourish and Blots. There, the Weasleys, Hermione and her parents were in line for a book signing by the flamboyant but inept celebrity author Gilderoy Lockhart, the newly appointed Defense Against the Dark Arts professor at Hogwarts. Lockhart, upon spotting Harry, enthusiastically called him to the front, allowing pictures to be taken before gifting Harry a set of his books. Embarrassed by the attention, Harry gave the books to Ginny, deciding he could afford his own set. Draco congratulated him sarcastically for making the front page unintentionally, but an argument erupted between Mr. Weasley and Lucius Malfoy over the former's Muggle obsession. The conflict escalated until Weasley lunged at Malfoy, with Hagrid intervening just in time. However, before the altercation ended, Lucius Malfoy discreetly slipped a diary into Ginny's cauldron of schoolbooks. Part 4. Car flight alongside the Hogwarts Express. When attempting to access Platform 9 3/4 to join Hermione and the Weasleys, the barrier unexpectedly sealed, causing Harry and Ron to collide with the wall. This mishap resulted in them missing the Hogwarts Express. Opting for an unconventional solution, they decided to fly Mr. Weasley's car to Hogwarts, relying on the invisibility booster to evade detection. Unfortunately, the booster malfunctioned shortly after takeoff, and their flight northward alongside the train was witnessed by Muggles. Their day-long airborne journey concluded with a less than graceful crash into the Whomping Willow. The impact broke Ron's wand, and the angered tree pounded the car. Fortunately, the battered Anglia expelled Harry and Ron with their belongings before driving off into the Forbidden Forest. Professor Snape discovered the boys watching the sorting ceremony and took them to his office, where they received separate detentions from Albus Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall. Meanwhile, Ginny Weasley was sorted into Gryffindor. The following day, Ron received a howler from his mother at breakfast, warning him of consequences if he broke another rule. Their misfortunes continued in the first Defense Against the Dark Arts class with Lockhart, whose teaching proved disastrous. Lockhart administered a pop quiz on himself and released a cage of freshly caught Cornish pixies, abandoning his students to handle the chaos. In subsequent Defense Against the Dark Arts lessons, Harry found himself acting out scenes from Lockhart's books. Lockhart volunteered to administer Harry's detention. Infatuated with fame, he sought Harry's assistance in answering fan mail. Ron, on the other hand, was tasked with polishing school prizes and trophies. Not only did Harry attract the attention of star-struck first-year Gryffindors like Colin Creevey, but Ginny also harboured a significant crush on him. While doing tedious work during detention, Harry began hearing a sinister, disembodied voice that Lockhart remained oblivious to. Part 5. Death Day Party. To avoid severe punishment from Argus Filch for a deed he didn't commit, Harry promised to attend Nearly Headless Nick's Death Day Party on Halloween. This act of goodwill was aimed at enhancing Nick's reputation and helping him fulfill his dream of joining the Headless Hunt. Harry brought Ron and Hermione along, with Hermione looking forward to the unique experience of attending a Death Day party, while Ron was less enthusiastic. The party proved to be a somber affair, featuring a candlelit dinner of repugnant, mouldy food that induced gagging in all three living attendees. Harry understood that the aim behind intentionally spoiled food was to simulate the ghostly ability to almost taste seriously decayed meals. Sir Nicholas appreciated the students' presence as it elevated his standing among the deceased. Despite their initial goodwill, the trio grew weary of the ghostly gathering and returned to the Great Hall. On their way to the Halloween feast, Harry, hearing the mysterious voice, inaudible to Ron and Hermione, followed it to the second floor. There, he discovered a flooded bathroom, Filch's cat, Mrs. Norris, petrified, and a cryptic message on the wall. Distraught, Filch falsely accused Harry of the incident and, with Snape, attempted to implicate him. Dumbledore, however, dismissed the possibility, citing the use of powerful dark magic beyond the capability of a second-year student. The plan to use mature mandrakes from Professor Sprout to create a potion for reviving Mrs. Norris was set in motion. This unsettling event left both students and staff uneasy, with many fearing that the ominous writing on the wall signaled the beginning of troubling times. Part 6. History of Magic. Driven by a desire to delve into the Chamber of Secrets, Hermione persuaded History of Magic professor Cuthbert Binns to share its origin with the class. Binns commenced the tale by tracing it back to the founding of Hogwarts in 990 AD by four eminent wizards and witches: Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. However, Slytherin's departure stemmed from a dispute over the admission of Muggleborns. When the rift between him and Gryffindor became insurmountable, Slytherin left the school. Legend had it that he crafted a parting gift in the form of a secret chamber accessible only by his true heir. This Chamber of Secrets purportedly housed a monster meant to cleanse the school of Muggleborns. Professor Binns, attempting to dispel the notion, assured the class that the chamber was a mere legend, and the school had been thoroughly searched without success. Convinced that Draco Malfoy was the heir of Slytherin, Harry, Ron, and Hermione contemplated proving it. Hermione suggested using the Polyjuice potion, capable of transforming one's appearance. She cautioned that brewing the potion would take a month, provided they gathered the necessary ingredients, including one from Professor Snape's private inventory, and managed to keep the plan under wraps. Part 7. Quidditch. During the month of brewing the Polyjuice potion, a Quidditch match unfolded between Gryffindor and Slytherin. Draco Malfoy had become Slytherin's new seeker, courtesy of his father's generous donation of Nimbus 2001 brooms to the team. In the midst of the match, a bludger singled out Harry, relentlessly pursuing him. Malfoy seized the opportunity to mock Harry's evasive maneuvers, raising suspicions among the crowd that the bludger had been tampered with. Despite the interference, Harry managed to catch the snitch, securing Gryffindor's victory. However, the bludger broke his arm, and Lockhart's misguided attempt at healing resulted in the removal of all the bones. Madame Pomfrey administered Skelegro to remedy the situation, confining Harry to the hospital wing overnight. During the night, Dobby visited Harry, confessing to orchestrating the bludger's pursuit and blocking Platform 9 3/4, all in a misguided attempt to prevent Harry from attending Hogwarts and encountering the monster in the Chamber of Secrets. Dobby implored Harry to leave the school, but Harry refused. Dobby, breaking house elf rules by revealing private information, punished himself and vanished. Shortly after, Dumbledore, McGonagall, and Madame Pomfrey entered with Colin Creevey, who had been petrified. Colin was discovered with a camera containing film that had melted. Part 8. The Dueling Club. Reluctantly, Harry enrolled in a dueling club taught by his least favourite teachers, Lockhart and Snape, held in the Great Hall. The first meeting revealed Lockhart's ineptitude as Snape disarmed him effortlessly, leading to a dull practice duel. To make matters worse, during the practice duel between Harry and Malfoy, Malfoy conjured a snake under Snape's instruction. Lockhart's attempt to banish the snake only unleashed it on the students. Spotting the snake advancing toward a Muggle-born Hufflepuff named Justin Finch Fletchley, whom Harry had met earlier, Harry instinctively commanded it to stop, much to his surprise. However, the other students, unaware of Harry's ability to speak Parseltongue, the language of snakes, interpreted it differently. Fearing that Harry was egging the snake on, they grew apprehensive. Parseltongue, closely associated with Salazar Slytherin, became a rare and dubious gift. Consequently, Harry became the prime suspect for being Slytherin's heir, with vicious rumors circulating about his supposed lack of magical decency. Shortly after conversing with Hagrid, Harry encountered a petrified Justin Finch Fletchley and a smoky, nearly headless Nick. Peeves alerted the school, and Ernie Macmillan accused Harry of being caught red-handed. For the first time, Harry was taken to Dumbledore's office, where he witnessed Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, bursting into ashes and being reborn. Despite Dumbledore and Hagrid vouching for Harry's innocence, a significant portion of the school remained convinced that he was Slytherin's heir. Part 9. Disguised as Slytherins. Harry, Ron and Hermione chose to stay at Hogwarts over Christmas, following the example set by Malfoy, Crabbe and Goyle. This decision presented the ideal opportunity to implement their Polyjuice potion plan. As Christmas arrived, they laced chocolate cakes with a sleeping draught to incapacitate Crabbe and Goyle, allowing them to collect their hairs and assume their identities. However, Hermione mistakenly used a hair from Millicent Bulstrode's cat, resulting in her transformation into a hybrid creature and a stay in the hospital wing. Under the guise of Crabbe and Goyle, Harry and Ron interrogated Malfoy, discovering that he was not the heir of Slytherin. Malfoy revealed that the last time the chamber was opened, a Muggle-born girl died, and the responsible party was expelled. During the conversation, Malfoy expressed his disdain for Dumbledore and Harry, also disclosing his father's secret stash of illegal artifacts in Malfoy Manor. Weeks later, Ron and Harry overheard Filch complaining about his workload and leaving. Investigating Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, they found it flooded. Myrtle, a melancholic ghost, explained that she flooded it because someone threw a diary at her. Harry picked up the diary, belonging to a T.M. Riddle, which appeared blank. Ron recalled a student named Riddle winning an award for special service to the school 50 years earlier. Hermione theorized that Riddle might have received the award for catching the culprit responsible for the previous attacks. Despite unsuccessful attempts to extract information from the diary, Harry felt compelled to keep it. On Valentine's Day, Ron and Harry were dismayed by Lockhart's Cupid dwarves spread throughout the school for Valentines. While avoiding them, Harry tripped, spilling black ink all over his bag's contents. Ginny noticed the diary and reacted with horror. Part 10. The Secret Diary. Subsequently, Harry observed that despite the spilled ink, the diary remained unstained. Intrigued, he attempted to communicate with the diary, and to his astonishment, T.M. Riddle responded, revealing himself as the one who had apprehended the culprit in the previous opening of the Chamber of Secrets. Riddle offered to show Harry the events, and in agreement, Harry was drawn into a recording of Riddle's memory from 1943. In this memory, Harry witnessed Headmaster Armando Dippet informing Riddle about the potential closure of the school. Apprehensive, Riddle caught Rubeus Hagrid with a large spider in a box and reported him to Dippet. The memory also unveiled Riddle's orphan status and his full name, Tom Marvolo Riddle. This revelation led Harry to ponder whether Hagrid was responsible for opening the chamber 50 years ago, and if he was involved again. Precisely what Riddle intended. Harry, Ron and Hermione decided not to question Hagrid, hoping the attacks had ceased. Almost 4 months after the attacks on Justin and nearly headless Nick, the disembodied voice remained silent, and the attacks appeared to have halted. However, peculiar incidents continued. One day, Harry found his dormitory in disarray, leading Ron to deduce that someone had been searching for something. Eventually, they discovered that Tom Riddle's diary was missing, perplexing them as only a Gryffindor would have known the dormitory password. Part 11. Cornelius Fudge. The following day, the anticipated Quidditch match between Gryffindor and Hufflepuff was abruptly cancelled due to another attack, and Harry once again heard the mysterious voice. This time, Professor McGonagall personally summoned Harry and Ron, guiding them to the hospital wing, where they found Hermione petrified. Near the library, she was discovered with a Ravenclaw prefect, inexplicably clutching a small, circular mirror. This occurrence shifted suspicion away from Harry, as students knew he would never harm Hermione. Some, like Ernie Macmillan, even offered apologies. Determined to seek answers, Harry and Ron decided to approach Hagrid. With increased supervision, reaching Hagrid wasn't easy, but they managed it by utilizing Harry's invisibility cloak. Upon reaching Hagrid's cabin, they concealed themselves just before Dumbledore and Minister for Magic Cornelius Fudge arrived. Fudge announced Hagrid's impending transfer to the wizard prison Azkaban as a precaution, citing Hagrid's involvement in the previous opening of the Chamber of Secrets. Lucius Malfoy joined them, revealing that the Hogwarts governors had unanimously voted to suspend Dumbledore, despite the questionable logic that it would exacerbate the situation. Both Hagrid and Dumbledore offered final words, with Hagrid covertly suggesting to Harry and Ron to follow the spiders if they sought the truth. Dumbledore emphasized that he would only leave the school when none remained loyal to him, and assured that help would always be available to those in need at Hogwarts. Part 12. Visit to Aragog's lair. Following Hagrid's advice, Harry and Ron opted to pursue the spiders. Traversing the trails of fleeing arachnids, they entered the Forbidden Forest. Despite Ron's profound fear of spiders, the urgency to help Hermione, who had been petrified, fueled his determination to press on. In the forest, they encountered the Ford Anglia, seemingly navigating the terrain like a wild creature. Their journey led them to Aragog, a colossal spider that Hagrid had been accused of setting on students 50 years earlier. Aragog clarified Hagrid's innocence, but, instead of allowing their departure, decided to designate Harry and Ron as dinner for his offspring. The situation took an unexpected turn when Mr. Weasley's Ford Anglia burst through the spider layers, facilitating the boys' escape. Feeling they had exhausted all leads, Harry and Ron clung to one potential lifeline. Aragog mentioned that the monster's last victim perished in a bathroom, prompting Harry to consider Moaning Myrtle as a possible victim. Yet, infiltrating the girls' bathroom near the site of the initial attack seemed nearly impossible given the heightened security measures at the school. Part 13. The Last Attack. Later that same day, Harry and Ron successfully deceived Lockhart, who was leading them to their next class, by appealing to his vanity. However, their moment of triumph was short-lived as they were apprehended by Professor McGonagall. Forced to concoct an excuse, Harry claimed they were on their way to visit Hermione in the hospital wing, which was now off-limits to visitors. Reluctantly, they had to proceed to make their alibi plausible. This time, while near Hermione's petrified form, Harry noticed a tightly clutched piece of paper in her hand. The paper unveiled Hermione's findings before the attack. She had deduced, based on compelling circumstantial evidence, that the Chamber of Secrets housed a basilisk, a colossal serpent capable of causing petrification and death through direct eye contact. This explained why only Harry, being a parcel tongue, could hear it. Interestingly, none of the victims died because they hadn't looked directly into its gaze. Colin Creevey saw it through his camera. Justin Finch Fletchley through nearly headless Nick, who was already deceased. Mrs. Norris saw its reflection in water of the flooded bathroom, and Hermione used a mirror to peer around corners after unravelling the mystery. The note also mentioned that spiders feared the basilisk, clarifying their exodus from Hogwarts, and that a rooster's crow could potentially be fatal to it, explaining the mysterious deaths of Hagrid's roosters during the year. This piece of information encapsulated the year's events. Additionally, the note featured a scribbled word, pipes, indicating that the serpent traversed through the plumbing. With the mystery unravelled, Harry and Ron resolved to report to the teachers in the staff room. However, upon arrival, they overheard the teachers discussing another attack. Concealing themselves to glean more details, they learned that Ginny had been kidnapped and the heir of Slytherin had left another message. Harry and Ron also discovered that Hogwarts would be closed the next day. The teachers then delegated the responsibility of dealing with the monster to Lockhart, who had been boasting about his capability to handle the situation, much to the irritation of the staff. Crestfallen, Lockhart departed for his room. Part 14. Discovery in the bathroom. On that fateful night, Harry and Ron grappled with feelings of uselessness and helplessness. A sudden realization struck Harry. If the serpent used the plumbing, and a girl had died the last time the chamber was opened, then the entrance must be in the bathroom haunted by Moaning Myrtle. With the decision that Lockhart, boasting of dealing with the monster, needed to know what they knew, they sought him out in his room. However, upon arrival, they discovered him hastily packing, intending to run away. Pressed for an explanation, Lockhart confessed to his fraudulent acts, admitting to using memory charms on those who actually accomplished the feats he claimed in his books. In an attempt to cast a memory charm on Harry and Ron, they managed to disarm him, and wielding their wands, escorted him to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Inquiring about her death, Moaning Myrtle willingly recounted her last sight, a pair of enormous eyes by one of the sinks. Notably, this sink had a non-functional tap. Harry deduced that Parseltongue was required to open the tap, as the tap had an engraved snake. The tap served as the entrance to the Chamber of Secrets. Descending through a large pipe, Harry, Ron and Lockhart found themselves in a labyrinth of tunnels beneath the school. Encountering a discarded snakeskin left by the basilisk, they pressed forward. However, Lockhart, seizing an opportunity, feigned fainting and snatched Ron's wand. Boasting his intention to erase their memories and fabricate a tale of their insanity at the sight of Ginny's presumed demise, Lockhart attempted a spell. Ron's damaged wand caused the charm to backfire, wiping Lockhart's memory and causing part of the ceiling to collapse. This left Harry trapped in the direction of the chamber and Ron in the direction of the castle. With no alternative, Ron remained behind to clear a path through the rubble, while Harry pressed on in search of Ginny. Approaching a wall adorned with stone snakes, he opened it using Parseltongue, gaining entry into the chamber itself. Part 15. The Chamber of Secrets. Within the chamber, a chilling scene awaited Harry as he discovered Ginny lying on the cold ground, lifeless and pale. Dropping his wand, he rushed to her side, desperately attempting to elicit any response. Yet his efforts were met with silence. To his astonishment, Tom Riddle stood before him, holding Harry's wand and sporting a sinister smile. Riddle disclosed that he was a preserved memory, residing within the diary for half a century. As Riddle explained the past events, he admitted to opening the Chamber of Secrets 50 years prior with the intent to rid the school of Muggleborns and half-bloods. Learning that Dumbledore, then the Transfiguration teacher, was closing in on him, Riddle halted the attacks and framed Hagrid to avoid exposure. In a strategic move, he left behind the diary containing the memory of his 16-year-old self, hoping an unsuspecting victim would aid him in completing his mission. Throughout the year, Ginny confided in the diary, and Riddle, in return, cunningly drew out her fears, hopes, and emotions. Unbeknownst to Ginny, she unwittingly imparted a part of her soul to him, fulfilling Riddle's sinister plan. Gradually gaining strength, Riddle succeeded in transferring some of his soul back into her, seizing control of her body to reopen the chamber and initiate a new wave of attacks. However, Ginny grew suspicious and decided to dispose of the diary by flushing it down the toilet in Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. Harry stumbled upon it, and Ginny, alarmed on Valentine's Day, reclaimed the diary from Harry's dormitory. Falling under its influence once more, this time with the intention to kill Harry, Ginny inscribed her farewell on the wall, drawing him into a perilous rescue mission. Riddle inquired about Harry's triumph over the dark wizard Lord Voldemort as an infant. Puzzled, Harry questioned Riddle's interest, as Voldemort existed beyond his time. Riddle asserted that Voldemort was his past, present, and future. With Harry's wand, Riddle inscribed his name in the air, Tom Marvolo Riddle, which then rearranged to form I am Lord Voldemort. This revelation unveiled that Riddle, a half-blood, manipulated his name to instill fear as he aspired to become the most powerful wizard in the world, a legacy tracing back to Salazar Slytherin through his wizard grandfather. Part 16. Battling the Basilisk. In response, Harry refuted the claim, asserting that the true greatest wizard was Dumbledore, not Voldemort. Even at the zenith of Voldemort's power, he feared Dumbledore, and now he was but a feeble existence. Riddle, angered by this contradiction, contended that Dumbledore had been forced out of the castle by the mere memory of him. In a vehement retort, Harry proclaimed that Dumbledore's influence persisted, which summoned Fawkes the Phoenix and the Sorting Hat, assets Riddle dismissed as useless. Attempting to turn the tide, Riddle summoned the basilisk, commanding it to kill Harry. Fawkes, however, proved formidable and blinded the basilisk by pecking out its eyes. Despite the blindness, the basilisk remained a potent threat, relying on its sense of smell. In a moment of desperation, Harry donned the Sorting Hat, hoping for assistance. To his surprise, a heavy sword with a hilt adorned with rubies descended from the hat. Evading the basilisk's attacks, Harry ultimately drove the sword into the roof of its mouth, ending its life. In the process, a poisonous fang pierced Harry's arm, injecting a deadly toxin. As Riddle gloated over his perceived victory, Fawkes, through his tears, healed Harry instantly. With a basilisk fang, Harry stabbed the diary 3 times, inadvertently destroying one of Voldemort's Horcruxes. Riddle's manifestation disintegrated, thwarting his attempt to return to life. Ink spilled from the book, as Riddle's memory vanished, and Ginny, now awakened, appeared distressed. Harry and Ginny traversed the chamber to reunite with Ron and Lockhart, the latter disoriented and unaware of his surroundings. Part 17. Escaping the chamber. Clutching onto Fawkes, Harry, Ron, Ginny and Lockhart soared out of the chamber with the help of the Phoenix's unique flying ability. Returning to the castle, they were greeted by Dumbledore, McGonagall, Arthur and Molly Weasley, who were overjoyed to see them unharmed. Harry fretted over the possibility of Ginny being wrongly blamed for the attacks, but Dumbledore astutely identified Voldemort as the true culprit. Relieved, Harry witnessed Ginny leaving to rest, and to his surprise, both he and Ron were awarded 200 house points each for Gryffindor and received an award for special services to the school. Dumbledore then entrusted Ron with Hagrid's release paper to be sent, and had a private conversation with Harry. During their discussion, Harry expressed his apprehension about belonging in Slytherin. Dumbledore disclosed that Voldemort had unknowingly passed some of his powers to Harry, explaining his ability to speak Parseltongue. Questioning Harry about his placement in Gryffindor despite possessing Slytherin-like qualities, Dumbledore affirmed that it was Harry's explicit choice during the Sorting Hat ceremony. emphasizing that choices reveal true character more than abilities, Dumbledore praised Harry for demonstrating genuine loyalty in the chamber, a quality that summoned Fawkes to his aid. Dumbledore pointed out the sword Harry retrieved from the hat, revealing it bore Godric Gryffindor's name, a testament that only a true Gryffindor could wield it. Part 18. Dobby's Reward. Lucius Malfoy stormed into Dumbledore's office, expressing his indignation over Dumbledore's return to the school after being dismissed. In response, Dumbledore calmly explained that the governors had invited him back upon learning of the attack on Arthur Weasley's daughter. It was revealed that Lucius had coerced the governors into voting for Dumbledore's removal by threatening to curse their families. Dobby entered the room with Lucius, revealing his servitude to the Malfoys. Dumbledore and Malfoy engaged in a composed yet intense exchange, during which Dumbledore and Harry, with subtle hints from Dobby, exposed Lucius for covertly slipping Riddle's diary, an illicit artifact, into Ginny's belongings during the altercation at Flourish and Blots. The plan was to frame Ginny for the attacks and cast doubt on the Muggle Protection Act proposed by Arthur Weasley. Although Dumbledore lacked concrete evidence to prove his accusation, he cautioned Malfoy against orchestrating similar schemes. Aware that a house elf could be freed by receiving clothing, Harry deceived Malfoy into releasing Dobby by covering Riddle's diary in one of his socks, promptly discarded by Malfoy and caught by Dobby. Unsuccessful in his attempt to harm Harry, Malfoy was thwarted by Dobby. Expressing profound gratitude to Harry, Dobby departed. At the concluding feast, Dumbledore announced a school treat, cancelling all final exams, much to Hermione's dismay, and declared that Lockhart would not be returning to Hogwarts. Before we dive into Harry's third year, hit that subscribe button to support the magic and keep the wizarding world alive. Hogwarts Year 3, 1993. Part 1. Inflation Mishap. Harry's third year in 1993 commenced with a string of challenges similar to the previous one, gradually turning disheartening. Over the summer break, the Dursleys, apprehensive about his magical abilities being revealed, forbade him from conversing with the neighbours upon his return home. They even punished him for sharing their phone number with his friends, resulting in Uncle Vernon's scolding when Ron called. Nevertheless, Harry persisted in practicing magic nightly, sneaking his school supplies into his room while Aunt Petunia and Dudley were away admiring Vernon's new company car. Despite minimal contact with friends and no updates from the wizarding world since the phone incident, Hedwig gained freedom from her padlocked cage due to the Dursleys' annoyance with her boredom-induced noise. On July 31st, Harry's 13th birthday, overshadowed by preparations for Aunt Marge's visit, Harry received a copy of the Daily Prophet, reporting Ron's return from Egypt, funded by Arthur Weasley's lottery winnings. Ron's gift of a sneakerscope, along with presents from Hermione and Hagrid, marked the occasion. When Harry's Hogsmeade permission form arrived, he fretted over convincing his aunt or uncle to sign it. They relented the next morning, conditioned on his behaviour during Marge's visit. However, Marge's derogatory remarks about Harry's parents at dinner triggered his anger, causing an inadvertent explosion of her wine glass. The insults continued the following day, targeting Harry's father, leading him to lose control of his magic and accidentally inflate Marge with the inflating charm. Vernon demanded Harry to reverse the spell, but Harry refused, opting to pack his belongings and leave, fearing expulsion from Hogwarts by the Ministry of Magic for underage magic outside school. That night, Harry was rescued from Magnolia Crescent by the night bus, which transported him to the Leaky Cauldron. 2 Ministry members deflated and erased Marge's memory. During the journey, Harry learned about Sirius Black's escape from Azkaban and the Ministry's pursuit. Upon arrival, Cornelius Fudge welcomed Harry to a meeting at the Leaky Cauldron, where he faced no consequences for the incident, deemed accidental and exempt from underage magic laws. Despite Fudge's gesture of providing lodging for the rest of the summer, Harry sensed an underlying motive behind the minister's generosity. Part 2. Staying at the Leaky Cauldron. After wrapping up his trip to Diagon Alley for school supplies 3 weeks later, Harry encountered Ron and Hermione searching for him at Florian Fortescue's ice cream parlour 4 days later, while the Weasleys secured a room at the inn. They were already aware of Harry's accidental inflation of Aunt Marge, with Ron finding it amusing and Hermione pondering Fudge's leniency. Ron, concerned for his ailing pet rat scabbers, joined Harry in purchasing rat tonic at the magical menagerie. During their time in Diagon Alley, Harry learned from a shop assistant that rats typically have a lifespan of 3 years, raising questions about Scabbers' longevity as Percy Weasley's former pet. Ron declined to replace Scabbers despite the saleswoman's offer of a sleek black rat. Meanwhile, Hermione bought rat tonic and a half-Kneasel cat named Crookshanks, much to Ron's chagrin. Later that night at the Leaky Cauldron, Harry volunteered to search for the misplaced rat tonic, while Ron helped Percy locate his headboy badge. However, Harry overheard a conversation between a concerned Molly Weasley and her husband about Sirius Black's escape and his potential connection to Harry. According to Mr. Weasley, Black's allegiance to Voldemort remained unwavering despite Voldemort's downfall. Learning that Black was reportedly fixated on Hogwarts during his time in Azkaban, Harry realized that Fudge's leniency towards him stemmed from relief at his safety after fleeing. Despite his faith in Dumbledore's protection, Harry acknowledged the possibility of Black targeting Hogwarts. Part 3. Delay on the Hogwarts Express. Upon reaching platform 9 3/4, Mr. Weasley pulled Harry aside to caution him against seeking out Black, but Harry insisted he had no intention of pursuing someone who wished him harm. Finding only one vacant compartment on the Hogwarts Express, Harry, Ron and Hermione were surprised to share it with a family friend, Remus Lupin, the newly appointed Defense Against the Dark Arts professor at Hogwarts. As Harry recounted the rumours about Black targeting him, the journey was interrupted when the Hogwarts Express halted halfway to Hogwarts. A Dementor, one of the hooded guards from Azkaban capable of draining happiness and inducing despair, boarded to search for Black. Ginny and Neville sought refuge in the trio's compartment due to their fear of the Dementors. The presence of the Dementors particularly affected Harry and Ginny, as Harry relived the trauma of his parents' murder by Voldemort, while Ginny recalled her possession by Tom Riddle's memory through his diary the previous year. Lupin intervened, casting a Patronus charm to repel the Dementor, saving Harry and Ginny from its deadly kiss. Overwhelmed, Harry fainted, only to revive after Lupin gave him chocolate to recover and sent a message to Professor McGonagall explaining Harry's condition. Part 4. Elective Classes. The following day marked the beginning of lessons. Harry, Ron and Hermione made their way to the North Tower for their inaugural divination class. There they encountered Sybil Trelawney, a mystical figure who foretold future events using tea leaves. Harry was perturbed when he spotted a black dog in his teacup, which Trelawney ominously identified as the Grim, a harbinger of death. Harry's unease stemmed from memories of encountering a similar black dog during his past escapades. However, Professor Minerva McGonagall later reassured Harry that Trelawney's predictions, though unsettling, had not yet come to pass. Meanwhile, Hermione opted to take on nearly double the usual number of classes, some of which coincided in schedule. While she found Professor Lupin's classes enjoyable, Hagrid's soon turned tedious. During their Care of Magical Creatures lesson, Hagrid introduced them to hippogriffs. Despite initial trepidation, Harry successfully approached and rode a grey hippogriff named Buckbeak. However, the lesson took a dark turn when Draco Malfoy deliberately provoked the hippogriff into attacking him. Following the incident, Draco informed his father, Lucius Malfoy, about the provoked attack. Lucius promptly lodged a complaint against Hagrid with the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, specifically the Committee for the Disposal of Dangerous Creatures. Meanwhile, tensions escalated between Hermione and Ron due to Crookshanks's persistent attempts to harm Ron's pet rat, Scabbers. Part 5. Sirius Black's first break-in. Word spread that Sirius Black had been sighted near Hogwarts, sending ripples of concern throughout the school. During a potions lesson, Malfoy insinuated a potential connection between Black and Harry's past, stirring Harry's curiosity. In defense against the dark arts, Professor Lupin introduced third years to boggarts, shape-shifting entities that manifested as a person's deepest fear. The class engaged with the boggart, coaxing it to assume humorous forms. However, when it was Harry's turn, Lupin intervened to repel the boggart, much to Harry's disappointment, who had anticipated facing his fear of Dementors. As October unfolded, Gryffindor's Quidditch team, under the leadership of Oliver Wood, prepared fervently for the upcoming season, aiming to secure victory in the Quidditch Cup before Wood's graduation. Despite setbacks in previous years, Wood remained optimistic about their chances. Meanwhile, third years relished the opportunity to visit Hogsmeade on Halloween, except for Harry, whose uncle failed to sign his permission form. Left behind, Harry spent the day with Lupin, engaging in conversation over tea. During their time together, Lupin confided in Harry, explaining his decision to shield him from confronting the boggart out of concern that it might manifest as Lord Voldemort. Shortly after, Snape arrived bearing a mysterious potion for Lupin, who dismissed it as a remedy for a minor ailment. Later that evening, Ron and Hermione returned from Hogsmeade to discover the portrait of the Fat Lady slashed and empty. Using his animagus form, Sirius Black infiltrated the castle unnoticed, making his way to Gryffindor Tower. Reverting to his human form, Black attempted to gain entry, only to be thwarted by the Fat Lady's refusal to admit him without the password. Frustrated, Black lashed out at the portrait before fleeing the scene. Peeves, the mischievous poltergeist, implicated Black as the assailant, prompting Dumbledore, Percy Weasley and Filch to embark on a search for the missing Fat Lady. Part 6. Marauder's Map. On the eve of the holiday break, as students prepared to venture to Hogsmeade, Harry found himself once again unable to join them. Seeking to lift his spirits, Fred and George Weasley presented him with a remarkable gift, the Marauder's Map. This enchanted map, a relic from Hogwarts' past, revealed the school's hidden passages, secret rooms, and the whereabouts of every individual within its walls. Eager to explore, Harry utilized the map to stealthily navigate to Hogsmeade, where he rendezvoused with Ron and Hermione at Honeyduke's. Amidst discussions of which sweets to procure for Harry, the trio ventured to the Three Broomsticks, a cozy pub managed by Madame Rosmerta. When unexpected company, including Minister Cornelius Fudge and several Hogwarts professors arrived, Harry discreetly concealed himself beneath their table to avoid detection, relying on the map to evade unwanted attention. While slipping back into the castle undetected, Harry inadvertently stumbled upon a conversation that would profoundly unsettle him. Sirius Black, Harry's parents' closest confidant and his own godfather, had allegedly betrayed them to Voldemort, resulting in their demise and the loss of their dear friend, Peter Pettigrew. The revelation of Pettigrew's apparent murder, accompanied by the chilling implication of Black's betrayal, left Harry reeling with disbelief and sorrow. Part 7. The Firebolt. During a heated Quidditch match, Harry encountered a group of menacing Dementors that caused him to lose consciousness and plummet from his broomstick. Miraculously, Albus Dumbledore intervened just in time to prevent a disastrous fall, but Harry's beloved Nimbus 2000 met a tragic fate as it was crushed by the Whomping Willow, leaving Harry devastated by the loss. To Harry's astonishment, a magnificent firebolt broomstick arrived as a Christmas gift, yet Hermione harbored suspicions regarding its mysterious sender, suspecting Sirius Black's involvement. Upon Hermione's report, Professor Minerva McGonagall confiscated the firebolt for examination, much to Harry's disappointment and Ron's frustration. In the aftermath, tensions ran high between Hermione and her two male companions, Harry and Ron, leading to a rift in their friendship. Despite their attempts to reconcile with Hermione once the firebolt was eventually returned, their efforts were thwarted when Ron discovered his cherished pet rat, Scabbers, had gone missing. Blaming Hermione's cat, Crookshanks, for the disappearance, Ron's distress deepened, leaving him inconsolable, despite the best efforts of Harry and the Weasley twins to lift his spirits. Part 8. The Patronus. Under Lupin's tutelage, Harry delved into learning the art of producing a Patronus, the powerful charm capable of repelling Dementors. Despite its complexity, Lupin guided Harry through the process, allowing him to practice on a boggart initially. Harry's initial attempts fell short of success, a testament to the spell's advanced nature, surpassing even the standard required for OWL examinations. During their lessons, Harry discovered Lupin's connection to his father James and their shared past at Hogwarts, as well as Lupin's acquaintance with Sirius Black. By February, Harry showed considerable progress in mastering the Patronus charm, although complete proficiency remained elusive. At the conclusion of one lesson, Lupin elucidated the grim concept of the Dementor's kiss, explaining it would be Black's fate, a revelation further solidified by a somber article in the Daily Prophet. With renewed determination, Harry received his firebolt back from McGonagall, its innocence confirmed, and seized the opportunity to hone his Quidditch skills before the upcoming match. Alongside Ron, he endeavoured to reconcile with Hermione, only to be interrupted by Neville's plight regarding a lost list of Gryffindor Tower passwords. Despite their efforts, tensions lingered as Scabbers vanished upon their return to Gryffindor Tower, thwarting their hopes for reconciliation. As March dawned, anticipation mounted for the Gryffindor vs Ravenclaw Quidditch match. Harry dedicated his final practice session to acclimating to the firebolt's nuances. During the match, amidst the exhilarating pursuit of the snitch, Harry confronted a sudden threat as Dementors encroached upon the stadium. Reacting swiftly, he unleashed a fully formed Patronus, dispersing the dark entities and securing victory for Gryffindor. With this triumph, Gryffindor later triumphed over Slytherin, clinching the coveted Quidditch Cup. Part 9. Cat, Rat, and Dog. Following Harry's completion of his divination exam, Professor Trelawney fell into a trance, ominously prophesying the return of the Dark Lord's servant that very night. Amidst the turmoil, Harry, Ron, and Hermione reconciled their differences, only to be confronted with distressing news: Buckbeak's impending execution. Seeking to comfort Hagrid, they found themselves unexpectedly reunited with Scabbers, prompting Ron to scoop him up. Meanwhile, Cornelius Fudge, Albus Dumbledore, and the executioner approached Hagrid's hut, signalling imminent tragedy. Sensing danger, Harry, Ron, and Hermione hastily retreated through the back door, the spectre of Buckbeak's demise looming ominously. As they traversed the path, a chilling sound pierced the air, reminiscent of Buckbeak's supposed execution. Abruptly, chaos erupted as Scabbers sank his teeth into Ron, precipitating a frenzied pursuit toward the menacing Whomping Willow. There, a savage dog pounced on Ron, dragging him and Scabbers into the depths of a concealed passage beneath the tree's gnarled roots. Driven by desperation, Harry and Hermione pursued the canine assailant, discovering a hidden tunnel leading to the infamous Shrieking Shack. Inside, Harry came face to face with Sirius Black, a fugitive animagus capable of transforming into a beast at will, whose presence threatened to unravel their fragile sense of security. Part 10. The Prisoner of Azkaban. Lupin, alerted to their presence by the Marauder's map, abruptly entered the scene, warmly embracing his old comrade Black. Harry, Ron and Hermione steadfastly clung to the belief that Pettigrew had perished at Black's hands, a notion vehemently denied by the latter. Moved by Lupin's urgings, Black reluctantly agreed to disclose the truth of the matter, recounting the events that unfolded during their Hogwarts days. Lupin divulged his affliction with lycanthropy, detailing Dumbledore's efforts to ensure his safety by constructing the Shrieking Shack and its secret passage. The Whomping Willow, strategically planted to conceal the entrance, thwarted any inadvertent encounters with Lupin in his transformed state. To preserve the ruse, rumors of spectral hauntings in the shack were intentionally propagated among Hogsmeade's populace. The clandestine alliance formed by Lupin's friends, Sirius, Pettigrew, and James Potter, soon emerged. Each had mastered animagus transformations to support Lupin, with Sirius assuming the guise of a dog to aid in his control. Pettigrew, as a rat, facilitated access to the Willow's vulnerability. Lupin confessed his silence regarding Sirius's animagus status to Dumbledore, fearing repercussions for his own complicity in the trio's transgressions. As tensions peaked, Snape's sudden arrival, cloaked in Harry's invisibility cloak, further complicated matters. A tumultuous confrontation ensued, culminating in Snape's incapacitation at the hands of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Their concerted efforts forced Pettigrew's reversion to human form, shocking all present, particularly Ron, whose pet Scabbers was unmasked as the treacherous Pettigrew. Black, driven by a fervent desire for retribution and to safeguard Harry, contemplated avenging his fallen comrades. Yet Harry's resolute conviction, rooted in his father's legacy, ultimately stayed their hands, preventing an irreversible descent into darkness. Part 11. Rescuing the Innocent. As they made their way back to the castle, the moon ascended, triggering Lupin's transformation into a werewolf. Amidst the chaos, Pettigrew seized the opportunity to flee, while Sirius morphed into his canine form to shield the group from Lupin's rampage. Lupin, in his beastly state, bolted, leaving behind a gravely wounded Black. As Dementors descended upon Black, poised to administer their soul-sucking kiss, Harry beheld a mysterious figure in the distance, conjuring a formidable Patronus in the shape of a stag, dispersing the dark creatures. Convinced it was his father, or perhaps his father's ethereal essence, manifesting the Patronus, Harry's belief was steadfast. With Black ensnared and destined for the Dementor's clutches, Hermione unveiled her possession of a time turner, a device entrusted to her to facilitate her attendance at multiple classes. Acting on Dumbledore's prompting, they embarked on a journey 3 hours into the past, observing their earlier selves navigate the harrowing events of the night. Liberating Buckbeak from his captivity, they raced back to the Whomping Willow. Confronted by the imminent attack of the other, Harry and Sirius, by the Dementors, Harry's realization dawned. The enigmatic figure he witnessed earlier was none other than his future self. Summoning every ounce of his courage, Harry conjured the powerful Patronus, driving back the encroaching Dementors. With Black's liberation assured, he mounted Buckbeak and soared to freedom, while Harry and Hermione hastened to return to their original time. As they glimpsed Dumbledore emerging from the hospital wing, their journey came to its completion, their actions altering the course of fate. Before we get into Harry's 4th year, hit that subscribe button to support me in making more magical content. I'll just be here waiting like a wizard at a Muggle bus stop. Hogwarts Year 4, 1994. Part 1. Trip to the Quidditch World Cup. At the Dursleys' residence on Privet Drive, Harry was roused from his sleep by a disturbing nightmare involving Muggle Frank Bryce. In the dream, Bryce overheard Voldemort discussing a reward for Pettigrew's role in the capture of Bertha Jorkins, a ministry worker whom Voldemort had killed after extracting information from her. Unfortunately, Frank was detected by Voldemort's snake, Nagini, and was subsequently killed by Voldemort with the killing curse for spying on him. Upon waking, Harry's scar was painful, prompting him to contemplate contacting his friends or even Dumbledore, but he ultimately chose to write to Sirius. He informed Sirius only about his scar pain and awaited Hedwig's return to send the letter. The following day, Harry received a letter from Mrs. Weasley, sent to the Dursleys, inviting him to attend the Quidditch World Cup final between Ireland and Bulgaria with her family and Hermione. Vernon Dursley initially refused, but the mention of Sirius Black changed his mind. Harry quickly responded to Ron with his acceptance. On Sunday, the Weasleys' attempt to reach the Dursleys via Floo powder failed due to the Dursleys' electric fireplace, leading to Mr. Weasley accidentally demolishing part of the living room. During the chaos, one of the twins left a Tung toffee, which Dudley unwittingly ate, escalating the tension and causing Vernon to attack Mr. Weasley with china figurines. On August the 25th, 1994, Harry joined the Weasley family, Hermione and others, including Cedric Diggory and his father Amos, at Stoatshead Hill for the World Cup. At the campground, they encountered Ludo Bagman, Barty Crouch Sr. and his house elf Winky, and various Hogwarts students like Seamus Finnegan, Dean Thomas, Oliver Wood, and Draco Malfoy. Thanks to a favour Mr. Weasley had done for Ludo Bagman, they enjoyed prime seats in the top box, allowing them a close view of the match between the Irish and Bulgarian teams. This event also opened Harry's eyes to the existence of international wizarding schools, a concept previously unfamiliar to him. Part 2. Return of the Dark Mark. The evening following the Quidditch match, while celebrations by fans of the Irish team were ongoing, a sinister group in black cloaks and hoods created chaos. They used the Levicorpus spell to hoist the Muggle campsite manager and his family into the air, making them resemble distorted puppets. They also wreaked havoc by looting and vandalizing the area. Under Mr. Weasley's direction, Harry, along with Ron, Hermione, Fred, George, and Ginny, escaped to the nearby woods. Amid the turmoil, the group got separated, leaving the trio on their own. During this confusion, Harry realized he had lost his wand, suspecting it had slipped from his pocket. In the forest, they encountered Draco Malfoy, who implied his father was one of the masked wizards and made a veiled threat about Hermione's safety due to her Muggle-born status. Later, it was revealed that Barty Crouch Jr. had pilfered Harry's wand. In a forest clearing, the trio heard the spell Mors Mordra uttered, conjuring the dark mark in the sky, a green skull with a serpent emerging from its mouth. Harry didn't immediately grasp its sinister meaning, but soon understood the mark's dark connotations. Shortly after, Barty Crouch Sr., Amos Diggory, and other ministry officials appeared and interrogated them about the mark. After Harry disclosed that he had heard someone else cast the spell, the officials searched the vicinity and discovered Winky, Barty Crouch Sr.'s house elf, unconscious with Harry's wand in her grasp. Consequently, Mr. Crouch dismissed Winky for tarnishing his family's reputation. Part 3. Mad-Eye Moody. During the welcoming feast at Hogwarts, Professor Dumbledore announced the return of the Triwizard Tournament, an inter-school competition, with participation from Beauxbatons Academy of Magic and the Durmstrang Institute. For safety, it was declared that only students aged 17 and above could enter the competition. Additionally, at this feast, Dumbledore introduced the new defense against the dark arts teacher, the ex-aura known as Mad-Eye Moody. The announcement received mixed reactions, as Moody was recognized for being both an exceptional aura and somewhat eccentric, with his distinctive magical eye earning him the moniker Mad-Eye Moody. In his first lesson with the fourth-year Gryffindors on a Thursday, Moody informed them he would only be teaching for 1 year. He chose to demonstrate the unforgivable curses, invoking a variety of emotions among the students, particularly Neville, who was visibly distressed and received comfort from his friends and Moody. To lift Neville's spirits, Moody later gave him a herbology book. Moody used spiders to show the three curses: the Imperious Curse, which controls actions; the Cruciatus Curse, which inflicts pain; and the Killing Curse, which causes instant death. He emphasized that using any of these spells could result in imprisonment in Azkaban. Part 4. The Goblet of Fire. Close to Halloween, Hogwarts welcomed students from Beauxbaton's Academy of Magic and Durmstrang Institute. Victor Crumb's arrival from Durmstrang excited many, particularly the girls. Victor Crumb, Fleur Delacour, and Cedric Diggory were selected as champions for their schools in the Triwizard Tournament. Unexpectedly, Harry Potter was also chosen as a fourth competitor, surprising everyone since he was underage and had not entered his name. Many, including Ron and other Gryffindors, doubted Harry's insistence that he hadn't entered himself, suspecting him of seeking further fame. This suspicion led to a significant rift between Harry and Ron, with Ron spending more time with Dean Thomas and Seamus Finnegan. Conversely, Hermione believed Harry immediately, attributing Ron's behavior to jealousy. She supported Harry by teaching him spells like the Summoning Charm, which he later used in the first task of the tournament. The champions were set to face 3 perilous tasks aligned with the 4 classical elements. Days after his name emerged from the goblet, Harry participated in a wand-weighing ceremony, where Mr. Ollivander confirmed his wand was in excellent condition. Following a lengthy photo shoot with the other champions and judges, Harry returned to Gryffindor Tower, where Ron informed him of a pending owl message and their upcoming detention. The message was from Sirius, arranging a meeting for November 22nd at 1 a.m. in the Gryffindor Common Room. During his stay at the tower, reporter Rita Skeeter bombarded him with misleading questions and subsequently published a sensational article in the Daily Prophet titled "Harry Potter's Secret Heartache," falsely portraying Hermione as Harry's girlfriend who was toying with his affections while pursuing Victor Crumb. This period was fraught with difficulties for Harry, facing widespread ridicule. Hufflepuff students felt he overshadowed their house, and Draco Malfoy intensified Harry's discomfort by distributing "Potter Stinks" badges and loudly reading Skeeter's disparaging articles whenever possible. Part 5. The first task of the Triwizard Tournament. The initial challenge of the Triwizard Tournament required the champions to retrieve a golden egg by bypassing a dragon. Hagrid inadvertently assisted Harry by revealing the dragons to him and Madame Maxime. Upon realizing that Cedric was the only champion unaware of the dragons, Harry informed him to ensure fairness. Alastor Moody, the new defense against the dark arts professor, observed Harry's disclosure to Cedric, but chose not to reprimand him. Instead, he encouraged Harry to leverage his flying skills for the task. Each champion faced a different dragon on November 24th. Fleur Delacour confronted the common Welsh Green. Cedric Diggory tackled the Swedish Short Snout. Victor Crumb battled the Chinese Fireball, and Harry encountered the formidable Hungarian Horntail. Considered the most dangerous of the 4, Harry summoned his Firebolt broomstick using a summoning charm and maneuvered past the Horntail to secure the golden egg. He sustained only a minor cut from the dragon's spike. Harry's swift retrieval of the egg garnered praise from Professor McGonagall, and he tied for first place with Victor Crumb. The peril of the task convinced Ron that Harry had not entered himself in the tournament. Realizing the potential danger to Harry, Ron reconciled with him after months of estrangement. Grateful for the reunion, Harry quickly forgave Ron. Part 6. The Yule Ball. In the interval between the first and second tasks of the Triwizard Tournament, the traditional Yule Ball was held on Christmas. Ron was upset to find out that Victor Crumb had invited Hermione to the ball, accusing her of consorting with the enemy, though the two pretended the dispute never happened the next day. Harry, having hoped to invite his longtime crush, Cho Chang, was disappointed to learn she had already agreed to go with Cedric Diggory. Consequently, Harry and Ron attended the ball with Parvati and Padma Patil. During the ball, both Harry and Ron largely ignored their dates. Harry was preoccupied with watching Cho and Cedric, while Ron was jealous of Victor Crumb, who was dancing with Hermione. Following the ball, Rita Skeeter published an article that exposed Hagrid as a half-giant, based on a conversation she overheard between Hagrid and Madame Maxime. Ashamed, Hagrid ceased teaching and avoided the Great Hall. Despite Dumbledore's efforts to console him, Hagrid did not return to his duties until Harry, Ron, and Hermione reassured him that his heritage did not change their affection for him, prompting his return. To advance in the second task, Harry needed to decipher the clue within the golden egg obtained from the dragon. Opening the egg only produced a piercing scream, until Cedric hinted that Harry should listen to the egg underwater. Following Cedric's advice, Harry used the prefect's bathroom, where he had an awkward encounter with Moaning Myrtle. After his bath, on his way back, Harry met Professors Snape and Moody, the latter of whom discussed Barty Crouch Sr.'s fixation on capturing dark wizards with Harry. Part 7. The second task of the Triwizard Tournament. The challenge for the second task involved diving into the Black Lake to retrieve the thing they would miss most, guarded by merpeople. Harry, unsure how to breathe underwater for an hour, received help from Dobby, who provided him with gillyweed. On February 24th, Harry successfully reached Ron, but was surprised to also find Hermione, Cho, and Gabrielle Delacour, Fleur's younger sister, as captives. After the other competitors rescued their hostages, Harry stayed behind to save Gabrielle in addition to Ron. Although he exceeded the allotted time, the judges awarded him extra points for his exceptional moral integrity. This act placed Harry and Cedric in a tie for first place, followed by Victor in second and Fleur in last. After his unexpected entry into the tournament, Sirius, staying hidden in a cave near Hogsmeade, often received visits from Harry, Ron, and Hermione. He offered Harry guidance, notably cautioning him about Igor Karkaroff, the Durmstrang headmaster and former Death Eater who had traded names for his freedom. Harry also mentioned seeing Bartemius Crouch on the Marauders' map to Sirius, who found it suspicious but advised Harry to concentrate on the upcoming tasks. A month before the final task, the champions saw the Quidditch pitch being transformed into a hedge maze, which alarmed Harry and Cedric. However, Ludo Bagman reassured them it would be restored post-tournament. The final task was described as navigating a maze filled with obstacles to reach the Triwizard Cup. During a walk back to the castle, Crumb pulled Harry aside to inquire about his relationship with Hermione. Due to his interest in her and misleading reports from Rita Skeeter, suggesting a love triangle involving them, Harry clarified that he and Hermione were just friends and advised Crumb to disregard Skeeter's writings. This rumor had resulted in Hermione receiving a significant amount of hate mail. During this conversation, a disoriented Barty Crouch Sr. appeared in the forest, desperately seeking Dumbledore. However, he vanished when Harry left to fetch him. Part 8. The Dream and the Pensieve. During a divination class, Harry had a vision in which he saw Voldemort receiving news of a death and subsequently torturing Wormtail for his failure to stop someone from escaping. After waking up with intense pain in his scar, Harry feigned a need to visit the hospital wing, but instead sought out Dumbledore. Upon reaching Dumbledore's office, Harry inadvertently overheard an argument between Dumbledore, Moody, and Cornelius Fudge about Barty Crouch. Fudge was skeptical of Crouch's claims regarding Bertha Jorkin's death and suggested Madame Maxime might be involved due to her half-giant background. Dumbledore criticized Fudge for letting his prejudices influence his judgment, a point Fudge dismissed, citing Dumbledore's friendship with Hagrid. Moody intervened to notify them of Harry's presence. After Dumbledore, Fudge, and Moody exited to inspect the school grounds, Harry, left alone, discovered Dumbledore's pensieve. Driven by curiosity, he looked into it and witnessed 3 memories from the aftermath of the First Wizarding War. The first memory was Igor Karkaroff's trial, where he disavowed his allegiance to the Death Eaters and named others, including Snape. In the memory, Dumbledore affirmed Snape's defection and current role as a spy against Voldemort. The second memory involved Ludo Bagman's trial, where he faced accusations of passing information to Voldemort. However, Bagman's popularity led to his quick acquittal. The third memory depicted the trial of the Lestranges, Bellatrix, Rodolphus, and Rabastan, and Barty Crouch Jr., who were convicted for using the Cruciatus Curse on Alice and Frank Longbottom, leading to their life sentences in Azkaban. Part 9. The third task of the Triwizard Tournament. In preparation for the final task of the Triwizard Tournament, Harry, along with Ron and Hermione, utilized empty classrooms to practice spells and jinxes. Between these sessions, during a divination class, Harry fell into a troubling dream about Voldemort and left the class abruptly. Rita Skeeter observed this incident and reported in her article dated June 24, 1995, the day of the final task, that Harry was disturbed and dangerous, which did little to improve his morale. However, his spirits were lifted when he spent the day with Bill and Molly Weasley, who attended the final task as his surrogate family. In the maze, Harry employed the 4-point spell to navigate and encountered various challenges, including a blast-ended Scroot and a Boggart mimicking a Dementor. He also heard Fleur scream during the task. Harry came to Cedric's aid when he found him incapacitated by a bewitched Victor Crumb. Harry stunned Crumb and sent up a flare for help before continuing with Cedric. They later encountered and bypassed a Sphinx. The climax of the task saw Harry saving Cedric from an Acromantula. In gratitude, Cedric suggested they both grab the Triwizard Cup together, ensuring a joint victory for Hogwarts, which would symbolize their mutual respect and collaboration. Unbeknownst to them, the cup was a portkey that transported them to a graveyard in Little Hangleton, marking a pivotal and unexpected turn in the event. Part 10. Resurrection of Lord Voldemort. In the Riddle family graveyard, Harry and Cedric found themselves unexpectedly transported, with Voldemort awaiting their arrival. As they attempted to comprehend their situation, Wormtail, acting on Voldemort's orders, used the killing curse on Cedric, whose body fell to the ground with a thud as Harry watched, helpless and pained by his scar. Harry was then bound to a tombstone inscribed with the name Tom Riddle and forced to witness a dark ritual. Pettigrew conducted the ritual, using Harry's blood to regenerate Voldemort's physical form. Subsequently, the Death Eaters were summoned to the site. Upon their arrival, Voldemort chastised the Death Eaters for their failure to find him during the past 13 years, despite knowing he could conquer death. He then rewarded Wormtail for his loyalty with a newly conjured silver hand. Voldemort disclosed that a servant at Hogwarts had manipulated events so that Harry would win the Triwizard Tournament and end up in the graveyard. He then released a weakened Harry, challenging him to a duel to demonstrate his superiority in front of his followers. Voldemort insisted on the formalities of a wizard's duel, and when Harry resisted, Voldemort subjected him to the Imperius Curse, forcing him to bow. He further tortured Harry with the Cruciatus Curse and attempted the Imperius Curse again. But Harry resisted. Failing to subdue Harry, Voldemort tried to end his life with the Killing Curse. Harry countered with a disarming charm, which, due to the mystical connection between their wands, triggered Priori Incantatem, causing their spells to collide and interlock. This magical clash summoned echoes of Voldemort's past victims, including Harry's parents and Cedric. Cedric's spectral form requested that Harry return his body to his parents. Amidst this confrontation, the apparitions provided Harry a moment to act, allowing him to seize Cedric's body and use the portkey to escape the graveyard, returning them to Hogwarts. Part 11. Revelation of Barty Crouch Jr. Upon Harry's harrowing return to Hogwarts, with Cedric Diggory's lifeless body, Mad-Eye Moody whisked him away to his office. It was soon revealed that Moody was actually Barty Crouch Jr., a devoted follower of Voldemort who had adopted Moody's identity for the school year. Crouch Jr., disguised as Moody, tried to extract information from Harry about Voldemort's resurgence and intended to kill him. However, Albus Dumbledore, accompanied by other Hogwarts staff members, intervened just in time. Under the influence of Veritaserum, a truth serum, Crouch Jr. confessed to his crimes and his allegiance to Voldemort. In a distressing development, Crouch Jr.'s soul was irretrievably removed by a Dementor's kiss, sent by Cornelius Fudge, who feared for his own safety. This action prevented Crouch Jr. from providing any formal testimony, complicating efforts to validate Harry's and Dumbledore's claims about Voldemort's return. Minister Fudge, refusing to accept their assertions, was motivated by a desire to maintain peace and avoid panic, which he believed acknowledging Voldemort's return would disrupt. Consequently, the Ministry of Magic denied Voldemort's resurgence, discrediting Harry and Dumbledore in the media as liars or delusional. Meanwhile, Voldemort and his followers capitalized on this denial to strengthen their forces covertly. In response to these developments, Dumbledore moved to reactivate the Order of the Phoenix.
Thanks for joining me on this magical journey in the wizarding world. But hold on to your broomsticks, because the magic is far from over. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you're always in the loop when the next enchanting adventure begins. Before you apparate away, lend a bit of your magic by giving this video a thumbs up. It's like casting a charm that helps our community grow. Thanks for being part of this magical community. Until next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.